if you do find yourself out in those conditions on a longboard, you're probably not in the right place. That's probably what I'd say.
This is all us. What are we doing?
I honestly think that's the thing with longboarding. Is so many people like expect themselves to be taking it out on all the stuff a shortboarding would.
Hello and welcome to the UK Surf Show. We are your hosts. I'm Pete.
And I'm Leighton. On this episode, we speak to Jack from Longboard Techniques.
Yeah, Longboard Techniques on Instagram. We've been getting a lot of questions saying, please can you do something on Longboard Techniques and tips and tricks? So we thought, why not get someone called Longboard Techniques on to speak about them?
I mean, he's a young guy, but he really knows his stuff. Like,
doesn't he? I feel like I was saying this, like 20 minutes in, I felt like I was a better surfer already.
Yeah, I feel like, that's fucking obvious. why have we been doing it this badly for so long? Like,
20 years of shit, 20-minute conversation, better already.
Yeah, well, he must be an incredible coach if he can do that.
Yeah, he's got spaces available throughout the summer, so if you want to take a lesson with him, you can get in contact with him through Instagram.
Yeah, his website's going to be up.
Yeah, his website will be up at some point.
But yeah, so from now on, like, kind of just contact him on Instagram. He's got really nice demeanour about him. I get the feeling that he'd be very calm with you in the water. Like, if I was a coach, I'd be like, "You're doing it all fucking wrong. What's wrong with you? Do what I say." But he was
holding their heads under the water.
This is your punishment. But he was very calm, wasn't he? I get the feeling he'd be in the water with him, and he'd be like,
really
patient.
Mellow. Yeah. Before we get into this one, thank you to our show sponsors, North Core. And if you want 15% off anything you order from North Core, use the discount code UK Surf Show 2022. That's UK Surf Show, all capitals, all one word, and the numbers 2022. And that is valid until the 31st of March 2022. And that will get you 15% off anything you order from North Core.
Yeah, so if you want to get better at longboarding, brace yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Jack. I'm a surfer. I've surfed since the age of 10 and I'm now a longboard coach. So I started surfing at the age of 10 and grew up surfing in Sidmouth and East Devon, which is probably one of the least favourable waves you could ever imagine because we only get waves in winter. When we do get waves, it's probably 2 to 3 foot. The water is like the most muddy brown you could imagine and it's always on shore. So I grew up shortboarding actually. Yeah. But I'm 6'4" now, so obviously, as you can imagine, I was growing up trying to shortboard these really weak, mushy waves. And then eventually, when I was 16, I saw people longboarding. So we did have a few good longboarders in Sidmouth. Yeah. And I just remember seeing them and being like, wow, they're getting so many more waves. Their waves are getting away longer. They're just looking like they're having more fun out there. Whereas me, I was stomping around, getting all angry, frustrated. So I picked up a longboard. And at the time, there wasn't much in the way of online tutorials. So I self-taught myself. Yeah. And I was always determined to be as good as I could at longboarding, basically. So I started competing at 17, so only 1 year after. Yeah. And I actually won the junior title in 2018. So I was really happy with that.
Yeah. Congratulations, mate. That's cool.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed doing sports. That's always been my thing. So I used to do cross-country running, swimming, surf lifesaving. Those are sort of my things. But then surfing gradually just took over, especially when I moved to Plymouth.
So I'm the same height as you. So you find that as like a real issue then, did you, being so tall and trying to shortboard?
I think there's advantages and disadvantages to this because obviously being tall, you have a higher centre of gravity, which makes things more difficult. Mm-hmm. All it means is you need to have better technique. So, for example, you need to be more compressed, you need to bend your knees more. But there is the advantage that you have got longer arms, you've got bigger hand span, which means you can paddle quicker, you can paddle out easier. So there's definitely positives to being tall, I'd say. And just like the general just extra weight you have in the water, you just get less bashed around than someone who's maybe a bit smaller and lighter. So I'd say there's pros and cons to it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you started longboarding and then a year later you competed and won. We started longboarding 20 years later, we're still shit.
That's the reason why you're on the show.
Oh, thank you. I don't know, that's the thing with longboarding though. I feel like, obviously because of the fact you can do it so many more days of the year, because you can longboard in anything 1 foot plus, it just basically opens up your levels of improvement. You can basically undergo. So whereas shortboarding, there's maybe only half the year you can actually shortboard to a good standard in good waves in the UK. So it just opens up the horizons to just getting better at surfing, basically.
Yeah. So what Pete mentioned, like before we started recording, is we've had a lot of people send us messages asking for like surfing techniques, and because people know, people know we're longboarders, they are specifically saying like, oh, you know, have you got anybody that can come on and speak about longboarding techniques? So we've got a few questions for you.
Perfect.
And it's just to see if you can help. So we're coming at it from like a total newbie, really us. so like as if nobody knows anything. Again, really us. So what would you say would be the best forecast or conditions for a kind of beginner/intermediate surfer to look for in the UK?
I know that's an easy one.
I know it's hard because of the different bays and stuff like that, but just like a general, you know, like wave height, period in between waves and all that kind of stuff.
So general rule of thumb, it's quite difficult because the forecasts always say one thing and you turn up in this. I feel like each different surf spot will always be something different to what the forecast says in their own way. So I know places that'll always be bigger than what is forecast. Other places it will consistently be smaller than forecast. Right. But say you were to turn up at a beach and you'd be like, right, what waves shall I longboard? I'd probably say if you're starting out or intermediate, maybe in the 2 to 3 foot range, to say like waist to shoulder high. And you want a wave that's not too steep to start with. So you want a wave that's nice and soft. So you think somewhere like Saunton Sand, basically places that haven't got too much power to them to start with, because obviously you are going to be paddling out a lot bigger ball to what you're used to.
Yeah.
And in terms of period, I always think that if the period's long, it's always going to be cleaner. It's going to look more groomed, and there'll probably also be better peeling waves as well. So I'd always look for a smaller long period, basically, and light winds as well.
Perfect.
Because as soon as you get chop on the wave face, when you're longboarding, it does get a bit difficult, especially if you're riding a single fin longboard. Because those boards are made to ride over big lumps of chop. That's what I'd recommend. Yeah.
So what about like paddling out on a longboard? What sort of, you know, punching through waves? Because there's so many different techniques, isn't there? You know, you've got the turtle roll, you've got the bunny hops, you've got, well, the worst thing that you normally see with people starting a longboard is just ditching the board, obviously. Which what's the techniques you normally teach for like paddling out?
Honestly, I'd say the best technique is to avoid the whitewater. And it sounds a bit absurd, but when you turn up to a surf spot, just observe it for maybe 10-15 minutes. And obviously when you're excited, it's hard to do that. And obviously me and myself, I find it hard also to do that. But I'd say just try and observe if there's any paddle channels. So quite a few surf spots, if you sit and watch it for a bit, you'll notice there's parts along the beach where there's no waves breaking and you can paddle out in those areas. So it tends to be rips. Obviously, if you're not experienced in the sea, you have got to be careful of doing that. But if you know what you're doing, maybe speak to a local first if you're not sure and just ask them where to paddle out, because most beaches have a channel to paddle out in.
Yeah.
And if there isn't a channel, the other thing you can do is wait and see how consistent the sets are, see how much time is in between the sets and try and time your paddle out. So basically the aim in the game is to try and avoid having to go over any whitewater. But say you do have to go over whitewater, small waves I tend to just say just push up. But a lot of people you see, and what they'll do is they'll try and push up just with their upper body, and then their legs will still be on the board, and all the wave's going to do is it's just going to hit into your chest and push you back. So what you need to try and do is go up onto your toes into basically like a plank essentially, and then the water will pass in between yourself and the board. And then going up to the more medium-sized waves, bunny hops are good, but there's a lot of room for error at them, which obviously is fine if you're willing to try. But it's quite easy to get thrown backwards doing them.
I've had a board in the face.
I'd say if you're trying to bunny hop, just try. What I say to people is try and lean forwards a little bit before the wave hits you. So you basically want to give yourself lots of time until the wave hits. So then you lean back and then lean forwards just before the wave hits, and that's going to give you a surge of push over the top of the wave.
Yeah.
And then obviously bigger waves you can turtle roll. That's the safest way, I'd say.
Yeah, and
definitely don't ditch your board.
No, definitely. And the technique for the turtle roll, that's that I've looked online quite a lot at them, and they vary massively in people saying you should be tight to the board, you should have a gap between you and the board for the water to pass through. what would you say the best turtle roll technique is?
I'd say as long as you don't let go of your board, that's the right technique. Basically, as soon as you're having to turtle roll, it's probably a wave you're a bit scared of. It's probably a decent sized wave.
Yeah.
The aim of the game is just to keep holding your board. So say you come up and it takes a while to get back on the board, it's all a bit awkward. Mm-hmm. So long as you've still got hold of your board, I'd say it's all good. So don't worry too much about it, but maybe just think about. I'd say the best thing is just try and give yourself as much time as you can up until when the wave hits. So try and do it nice and early. Get yourself comfortable. Make sure you're holding onto the board correctly, like nice and tight. And then try and pull the board down towards you because the wave wants to rip the board out of your hands.
Yeah.
Whereas what a lot of people think is going to happen is that the board's going to come to your face, but it's the exact opposite of that. So the board's going to try and get ripped out of your hands. Yeah. So just grab hold nice and tight.
I've done that quite a lot actually, where because you don't want to hold your breath for too long, I've waited to the last minute to do the turtle roll, and you're right, you're not comfortable,
exactly.
And you don't have time to pull it to your chest, and it does just rip out your hands or whatever. So that's a good tip to it.
I find with the turtle roll when you have to do it, every now and then it's one of those ones where you'll do it and you'll be like, oh shit, I'm off the board, scrambling to get on the board or whatever. Every now and then you'll time one perfect and you'll just hit the back of the wave and it will just sort of flip you. And you land back on the board. You're like, bloody hell, I've got it. And you go for the next one. You're like, oh shit.
And you just pad it off and go, yeah, totally planned that.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like getting to the beach, I think every surfer falls prey to that, like that overexcitement and just get in and not observe the beach, because when on a beach break, when the water comes in, it has to go back out, doesn't it? And that's exactly what that channel is, isn't it? So, I mean, we fall prey to that. I think the first 15 years we made that mistake. Just like
don't make up like we don't do it anymore. We still just run in like idiots.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a really good tip. That is because we fall prey to that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Okay. Right. So we got the best forecast or for like beginner to intermediate, and then the paddling out. So there's a few different pop-ups for longboarding, isn't there?
Yes.
And techniques on how to catch a wave and stuff. So, I mean, I've got a few written down. You'll probably know more on that. But so you see some people, generally lighter people, paddling on their knees. And obviously the pop-up is a lot easier because they're on their knees, aren't they? Like 2 knees on the board. Like they would with a normal paddle board kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And then a lot of people do like the 1 knee and up generally, if they're bigger guys or girls as well. So, and then there's also the normal pop-up led down straight to feet. So, I mean, obviously the best one is going to be the one that you get onto your feet quickest. But is there actually, kind of a reason for the others as well? Like, is there a reason why you would use the others?
Well, I think when you're popping up, you just need to remember to take your time. So whichever method you use, it's always good to just take your time with it. So most of the time, if you're falling off after your pop-up, it's because you stand up too quickly and your hands are above your head. And if you do things quickly, it's harder to think about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I say just take it slow and just think about what you're doing and just try and focus on getting your back foot on the board first. So the reason why when your back foot down first is because then it puts weight towards the fin, which is then going to engage your fin and keep you from nosediving. But say you put your front foot down first, that's going to put all the weight towards the front of the board whilst you're dropping down the face, and that's going to nosedive you. Mm-hmm. And the other thing to consider is longboards, because they are long, they're not made to fit in the wave vertically. Mm-hmm. They're made to fit along the wave. So when you're paddling in, say you're doing a faded takeoff, which is a type of takeoff where you basically paddle towards the peak of the wave to try and position yourself in the pocket. Then you want to try and angle yourself towards that and then directly back along the wave. Or say you're doing just a basic takeoff, you want to try and angle that takeoff along the wave rather than straight down. And then just take your time. Because if you think about it, once you're moving along the wave, whether that's on your knees, lying down, you're already moving along the wave. You can take as much time as you like at that point. Yeah. Whereas if you're going straight down the wave, it makes you feel like you've got to do everything super quickly and it's all a big rush and you end up falling off because you stand up too quick. So I'd say that's the main thing, is just try and take your time with it.
I mean, that's really good to hear that, because when you look at videos on YouTube, they're all talking about, getting up as fast as you can, and it needs to be an explosive movement, like all those words, explosive, and it makes it feel like you've got to be really quickly. So, I think
there's a time and place.
Right, yeah. So when would that be to do like an explosive pop-up?
Well, if you think about the sort of waves you'll be longboarding, they're not particularly powerful, fast waves. So that's one thing. Is if you're say you're on a sort of wave that's meaning you have to do a really fast pop-up, you're probably not in the right conditions for a longboard.
Right.
So I'd say the more hollow barreling conditions, then you do have to be really quick to your feet. But
yeah.
If you do find yourself out in those conditions on a longboard, you're probably not in the right place. That's probably what I'd say.
This is all us. What are we doing?
I honestly think that's the thing with longboarding is so many people like expect themselves to be taking it out on all the stuff a shortboarder would.
Yeah.
Which obviously when you're starting out just isn't realistic. But obviously as soon as you get more advanced, it is an option for you. Like you can see what some like pro longboarders do. Like they sort of pipeline on longboards.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's so far you can take it.
Yeah.
I'm scared to surf puts her on a big day on a longboard.
Well, yeah.
It's a scary wave that, to be fair, when it's big.
Yeah. Right. So that covers the pop-up then. So take your time with the pop-up. And then so when you're up then, so the board, you would engage the board in trim straight away.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so would there be a technique for that, or is that just all down to the pop-up and placing your back foot to make the fin engage and then you're naturally in trim?
So first of all, we have to think about what trim actually is. Mm-hmm. So what trim is basically the balance between the flow of the water moving up the face of the wave, and that's countered by the weight of you pushing down on your board.
Right.
And also there is another element to it that obviously you've got your fin, which increases the hold that your board has to stop it sliding down the wave face. And you've also, when you're in the pocket of the wave, which is where you always want to try and be, you've also got the lip of the wave on the tail of the board, which will also balance your weight as well. So if you think about the sort of part of the wave where you're going to get that flow of water up the face, you have to be at the top third of the wave and also nice and far in the pocket. So I'd say that's the thing you should focus on as soon as you pop up, is just trying to get yourself into the pocket of the wave. So what the pocket is where the white water is. It's the steepest part of the wave, and it will make you have more speed. It will make you more stable as well from having more speed. And then as soon as you learn to ride the pocket, it just opens up all your horizons for all the other longboarding maneuvers.
Right, so that's the beginning step then to do everything else. Yeah. It's true.
See, because we have we surf even though we're similar sort of level, we surf very differently. As Leighton will be taking off on a wave at an angle, and he'll be going straight down the line, and I'll take off, like you said, more straight, and then bottom turn, and then come back into it. So I would say I'm slightly angled, but I'm more of from a skateboard background where I drop in straight down, like onto a mini ramp sort of thing, and come in that way, and then turn into that. Is there a big disadvantage from doing that?
Well, going back to what we were saying about the different types of takeoff. So obviously I mentioned the faded takeoff, the angled takeoff, and then the one you're describing is just a more standard takeoff. So more of a takeoff to a bottom turn.
Yeah.
So what type of takeoff you do all depends how far away from the peak you are when you're paddling for the wave.
Yeah.
So because obviously, like I say, the aim of the game is you want to be riding in the pocket when you're on the wave. So say you're paddling for the wave and the peak's miles away from you. You want to do a faded takeoff, which is where you paddle yourself towards the peak as you're going for the wave. So as you catch the wave, you want to be angled towards the peak. As you pop up, you then look the other way, so back along the wave, and it will swing your board along the wave. So that's what you do when you're away from the peak. And then your takeoff you're describing, which is right in the right place and time, which is where you just take off straight and bottom turn. It would be on I'd say a sort of mellow-ish wave. Not as mellow as the wave you do a faded takeoff on, but it's one where you don't want to just race along the line, because otherwise you'll end up too far out on the shoulder of the wave. Yeah. It's one where you are more or less in the right place, but all you need to do is just get yourself moving along the wave in trim. I mean, obviously the angled takeoff is more of a late takeoff. So that's when you can see the waves walled up. You're like right in the pocket, and you need to just get along the wave. That's when you do the angled takeoff.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely.
Right, and so once you're in that position, that perfect position to start the other manoeuvres, so we got obviously the top turn and the bottom turn. So what would you like? What's the technique for that?
So it all starts with being nice and compressed off the bottom of the wave, because if you're compressed, if you imagine a spring, if you push a spring together, it makes more potential to then extend and then basically almost jump up the wave face. So that's going to jump you up the wave face, up to the top of the wave. And then you'll be able to then get nice and compressed again to bring you back down. So anytime you want to move up the wave face, you want to extend. And then to get back down, you want to compress. And that's going to make you basically do S turns up and down the wave.
Yeah.
So that's the first step to doing a top turn. And then as soon as you get more experience, you'll start trying to make it more extreme. So you'll go more vertical, or say you're doing more carve-like turns, you'll go more figure of 8. So you can so just from going from the basic, just up and down, nice and cruisy, you can then take it to doing anything, literally. There's so much you can do.
Yeah.
And what positions will your arms be in when you're doing that? So you're compressing your legs and you're moving up the face of the wave. How would your arms be situated?
So when you're longboarding especially, it's really important that you're facing front on when you're surfing. So obviously what you don't want to be doing is facing side on, because then your chest isn't actually looking where you're going. Mm-hmm. And it makes it harder for you to see where you're going, especially on your backhand. So what I say is to try and keep each hand over each rail, which will then open up your chest and your shoulders, so then you're facing along the wave in the way you're going. I mean, it'll make it a lot easier to see what the wave's doing, and you'll also find it a lot easier to have more control over your surfing. Because as soon as you stand side on, you obviously can't see what's going on behind you, especially on your backhand, like I say. I mean, you're surfing blind, and obviously then it starts getting scary. You start getting in weird situations, can't see other people.
Been
there. We've spoken to you for 19 minutes. I think I'm a better surfer already.
Just all the things that you say is the wrong thing to do. We
pretty much do. The thing we've said loads of times, like for people if they're starting surfing, to go and have a lesson. Just to get you started. Definitely. And we did that thing of we're not having a lesson. I think it's ego in a way, isn't it? It's a lot of people when they do it, we're not having a lesson. I'm just going to get a surfboard. I can skateboard. I can surf. And you quickly find out you can't. Yeah. And you just pick up bad habits along the way, and you just carry on doing them. And
also for people listening to this, this is obviously your longboard coach. So what you're saying is kind of founded in fact and experience. Where online there is so much shit out there which people will listen to.
Yeah, we post a lot of it.
Yeah. So it's nice for people to hear some actual facts.
Thank you. But I feel like that's the thing though about longboarding. There's a wealth of shortboard coaching, and there's also really good tutorials online. Like you've got the Hurley Performance Club, I think it's called. Like there's all these different tutorials for shortboarding online. There's like all these different shortboard coaches out there. It's like more platforms available. Whereas for longboarding, it's a really new thing having coaching.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And I feel like also just because longboarding is coming back into fashion, it did go out of fashion for a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I wasn't surfing at the time when it was the shortboard revolution and all of that, but I feel like it
don't feel old now at all.
But with it coming back into fashion now, there are more opportunities for coaching, and there's more tutorials out online. But that's kind of why I started this Longboard Technique Instagram page, is just to kind of share my knowledge about it.
Yeah.
Because I was self-taught, because at the time I was learning, there wasn't anything out there that was meaningful, like you say. So it was really hard to actually find ways to actually learn the correct technique.
Yeah. So now we're going through, and people are feeling that paddling into the wave, getting onto the wave, getting into trim, turning. Then you're going to want to start maybe walking the board a bit.
Yeah.
This is one of my big failures. Constantly, I either lean too far forwards, or I end up taking half a step and just zipping the board out from underneath me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like with cross-stepping, you first of all need to feel really solid surfing in the pocket.
Yeah.
Because if you try moving up the board when you're not in the pocket, you'll break the trim and you'll nosedive straight away. And you'll feel like your weight's too far forward, but that's literally because your board's just stopping dead because it's too far out of the pocket.
Yeah.
So what I recommend is just try and get really comfortable right in the pocket. So especially try and get your cutbacks good. Mm-hmm. That's the first step. So when the wave's steep, you want to just try and get nice and compressed to make it past the section. And then when the wave flattens out, you want to do a cutback. So that's the first step to ride in the pocket. As you get more comfortable, when the steep sections arise, rather than getting compressed and going down the bottom of the wave, you'll want to trim along the top third, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
But it's really important whilst you're doing that you stand in the correct stance. So like I said, you want to be front on, you want to have your hips and chest facing forwards. And it does also really help when you're starting to cross step that you have your feet at 45 degrees along the stringer, which is obviously the center line of the surfboard. Because if you have your feet at 90 degrees, you're going to be doing this weird side shuffle, which is really hard to do. And obviously, I started off by doing that, but over time, I was watching more experienced longboarders on YouTube. You see that they all stand with their feet facing forwards, not all the way forwards, but like I say, at 45. And it's really important as well to try and keep your back upright. And as soon as you're in the right stance, in trim, just try and stay as still as possible. Mm-hmm. So if you start moving your arms around and stuff, it's just going to throw you off balance. But if you stay as still as possible, then the first step to trying to cross step is just move your back foot and cross it in front of your front foot and just try and hold it there and stay as still as possible in that position. Yeah. And then as you come out of the steep section, literally just bring your foot back into its original place. So that's kind of like the first stage learning the cross step.
That's a really good tip. And what about like arms in that? Because like I feel like I've tried cross steps and like my arms are either up here or trying to be out there to like try and keep my balance, or would you say same position like over the rails?
So it's really hard with arms, and I still struggle with this myself. Like my arms quite often are all over the place, and especially me being tall, that really puts me off balance. Because my arms are like my arm span's probably 6 foot in arm, it's just pure arms. So as soon as they go up in the air, that's me out, like off balance. So I say the main thing I'd say is once you feel your balance in trim, try and keep all your upper body as still as possible. So try and keep your arms nice and low. It does sometimes help to have them out slightly. So, because obviously if you bring them right into yourself, like right next to, like by your side, it's going to make it more difficult. Say there is a little wobble, there's going to be like, as soon as you move, it's going to push you out your center of gravity. So if you have your hands low over the rails and slightly out, that's probably the best position to have your arms.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. That's,
So we need to get the board in the right position before we start cross.
We just need to like wipe our minds and start surfing from the very beginning. It's just honestly, like we know by the amount of people we've spoken to, people say stuff about like different surfing techniques and different things they do, and we just end up going, "Yeah, we don't do that. Yeah, we don't do that. Yeah, oh yeah, we're really, really shit, aren't we? Yeah, we just do everything wrong."
I think we've picked up so many bad habits over the years. It's harder to unlearn them than just to start again and learn again. Do you know what I mean?
And you got that thing when you're surfing with a mate, if your mate tells you you're doing something wrong or they can see you doing something, half the time when you're surfing with a mate, you don't want to listen to them anyway. You're like, yeah.
Just, what the hell do you know?
Start them instead.
That's it. You're doing that wrong. Yeah, whatever. I'm still going to do it wrong.
No, I feel like in terms of breaking habits, though, the best thing you can do is less. It sounds like probably the opposite of what you'd expect. But if you literally pop up on the wave and start trying to do everything and like start thinking about where your hand is, where your head is, where your hips are, feet are, it's just too much for your brain to process. So if you actually just try and stand there, like I say, just focus on being on the in the pocket. Just try and keep your upper body nice and still whilst you're doing it. So because obviously surfing is your feet and your legs and your hips primarily that do the movements. Mm-hmm. Try and just use the arms to obviously guide your board. But other than that, they should stay pretty still. Yeah. And then once you stay more still and take it slow, you'll have more headspace to start thinking about all these other things you can do. Yeah. So I say less is more, basically. It's as simple as that. Really.
We've definitely fallen prey to that as well. Yeah. How many surfs have we been? You've been like, you're too in your head, aren't you? Yeah. You know, you're trying to do too much. Before you're even on the board, you're already trying to work out, you know, the top turn or the bottom turn. You're not even on the flipping thing yet. Yeah. You know, it's so that is a good tip as well. So what about when you're walking the board? Obviously, the aim is going to be to nose ride and then hang five and hand 10. So that is just the same as walking the board, but it's just a process of getting that first step, getting the second step until you get to the end of the board, or is there like another technique when you're at the end of the board?
All right, so what you want to do is you want to try and work your way up to it, like you say. So that's exactly right. So you start by just crossing your back foot in front of your front foot. That's just your simple one step. And then eventually you want to then bring what your front foot was to then become your front foot again, if that makes sense. Obviously, it's quite hard to explain over this. But so you basically want to do the full 2 steps. I mean, you're stood in your normal stance, but just further up the board. Mm-hmm. And then from that, just have a look at how far from the nose you are. Some people, like me, because I've got long legs, I will sometimes be on the nose already, just from doing 2 steps. Yeah. But if you've got smaller steps, then you might have to do another 2 steps. Mm-hmm. It's just all about playing around and just seeing how many steps it takes to get to the nose. But like I say, the aim of the game, once you're in trim and in the place on the wave to start cross-stepping, it's all about staying still, because the more movements you make, with your upper body and arms, the more likely you are to basically jolt your board and then come out of trim. As soon as you're out of trim, if you try and go to the nose, you'll nosedive straight away or slip out or something.
Yeah, because that said, I like when you see videos of people like nose riding that are like really good, all their movements in their legs, like everything's like back and forward, and the top of their body's like perfectly
It's
still.
like walking a slack line. Yeah. So we used to do some of the slack lining as well. So
yeah,
it is
keep your
exactly
top
the same.
yeah, should work out. These
Why
things.
aren't we relating it?
No, I feel like that's something that would really help a lot of people as well, though, is because like there's all these like surf skates coming out for shortboard training. But if you try and think of ways you can practice your cross-stepping on land, because obviously quite a lot of people, I used to be the same. I used to live somewhere which didn't get waves over summer, so I'd have to find ways to train on land.
Yeah.
So just doing simple things like trying to practice cross-stepping with the right stance, trying to keep your upper body still, just along something like a beam or even just a log or something. Like even that will really help your cross-stepping.
Yeah.
I mean, you can advance it up to doing it on like a longboard skateboard. I know there's these ones you can buy. I'm not sure I think they're called handboards or something. And they're literally like 8 foot long skateboards. You can just practice your footwork up and down.
So yeah,
there's so much you can do on land.
This is what we were saying the other day. We were having a conversation about surf skates, and we were saying like, yeah, surf skates are great, but every single one of them move differently and turn differently, and some turn off the front foot, some turn off the back foot. None of them are really aimed towards longboarders, are they? They're all like shortboarders, sort of. They're great fun to practice on, and when there's no surf and practice turns and stuff like that. But the turn, when you turn on a surf skate, it feels nothing like when you turn on a longboard.
No. So what I actually did, and it kind of works, it kind of doesn't in some ways, but I actually took the carver truck. So I used to have a carver board. I actually took the front truck, both trucks off the carver board and put it onto a longboard deck.
All right.
And it kind of works, but also, like you say, it doesn't quite feel like a longboard would.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the thing about a longboard, you've got such a wide turning radius, and almost like as soon as you do a short radius turn, it's more of a pivot more than it is a lean. Because on the surf skates, it's really encouraging you to lean like you would on a shortboard.
Yeah.
So that's what those trucks are built for, is basically for shortboard training. But like I say, I've never tried them, but I've seen on Instagram and like other places, there are these other longboards that are coming out, which are literally almost life-size longboards, but they're just obviously skateboards. And they do have a truck that makes it tip and like pivot more like a longboard would.
Oh, cool,
sold.
Yeah.
But they're so expensive. That's the issue as well, though.
They're not sold.
They're going to be like £600 or £800 themselves, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Same price as a board, that.
Need one.
I wonder if they want to sponsor a podcast.
Let's see. Let's chuck some emails around.
That'd be perfect.
Right, so your own surfing then. So at the moment, you're coming to us from
Barbados.
Barbados, yes.
Nice.
Another one.
On another break.
Yeah. Well, can you explain why you're there and like what the surf's been like?
Yeah. So, I was at uni in Plymouth since 2018, and I just recently graduated this year, and I had a load of trips planned. I was meant to be going to Fuerteventura, but then that trip to Fuerteventura, which was the uni surf trip at the time, was actually booked for what ended up being the first week of the first lockdown. So obviously that didn't happen.
Human.
It was the worst feeling ever. I feel like it's even more effort to unbook a trip or like rewind the trip than it is to actually book it. So
yeah.
But anyway, so then that put a stop to that, and then ever since there wasn't really any other opportunities to go travel really.
Yeah.
So then this came around. I was working in Newquay as a surf instructor this summer. Earned enough money. I was like to my girlfriend, let's go. So we've been out here for 4 weeks. We've got another 3 left, so 7 weeks in total. And it's honestly first time surfing the tropics for me. It's been so nice just to actually train and be able to do multiple sessions a day without being freezing cold and having to go and have a coffee every half hour or something.
Imagine. You can't I can't even imagine it.
No, we're having. You've gone at a good time because the waves this summer over here have been shockingly shit. Yeah, I think the wave gods have taken the winter off and fucked off to Barbados. But honestly, it's been a nightmare. I haven't surfed in like 3 weeks, and I think
last time I surfed was Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's just crazy. There's just storm and winds all the bloody time at the moment.
But I think that's the thing though. It's like over summer was awful, and then we had I think we had like a week in autumn, and that was about it.
Yeah.
It's just all these north winds. As soon as it's north winds in the UK, I'm not sure what's happening, but we seem to just constantly have north winds now.
Yeah.
It ruins the whole coast.
Yeah.
Everywhere is literally ruined. But then I think Christmas was all right. Like you say, or like literally on Christmas was good.
Yeah.
And then we had, the last month when I first came out here was really good. But it was ironic because they were having the worst season they've had yet over here. So when I turned up in Barbados, it was like 1 to 2 foot. It's like normally you get trade winds here which make wind swell. So it's normally about 4 foot more or less every day.
Yeah.
Instead it was 1 to 2 foot. I was looking at clips of people on Instagram back home surfing like Fistula, all these places, like firing like perfect. Yeah. Like, how has this happened? I've literally put this trip and it's somehow just swapped over now.
It's
I think it's super fun though.
It's always the way. So the questions we often ask people about their own surfing is, can you remember the best wave you've ever had? And can you remember your worst wipeout you've ever had? Yeah, well, best wave I've ever... It's weird because like I feel like they all just blur into one after a while. Yeah, a lot of people say that.
But like you say, I think we've been so starved for good waves the last year in the UK that it's just kind of gone over my head the last time. But I think that's the thing, like on a longboard, every day is a good day for surfing because there's so much more you can go out in. So I feel like, to be honest with you, I mean, I've had some good waves out here for sure. So I'd say literally in the last week, I've had some real fun waves. Yeah. Worst wipeout, probably today.
Oh, really?
In Barbados, yeah. So what happened? I was just going. It's the biggest day it's been since I've been out here, and obviously first time surfing anywhere other than the UK. So I wasn't quite used to the power of it out here.
Right.
And I was paddling for a wave, nice and chill, just like I was a Fistula or something. First wave getting launched over the falls onto my board, and I was riding a fish because it was big. So I was like, "Oh no!" And I could just literally, I just knew the board was under me still. So the fishtail, which is obviously pointy, just goes straight into my calf. And I'm pretty sure it's all bruised up now because it's like so stiff and tender, I can barely move it.
Oh,
nice.
That's the first time we've had a when's your worst wipeout? Yeah, it was today.
I mean, I see the other ones maybe being at Port 11. I've had some pretty bad. I mean, I've only surfed it once, and that one session didn't go well at all. No. Because I mean, for one, I'm not really used to shortboarding anymore. So it was that one swell we had. It was in January or something like that, and it was decent size. It was pretty packed, and like for the people who've surfed it, like obviously you guys might have done as well. It's so hard to catch waves out there if you're not from there or not a known face. So obviously, I wasn't a known face.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to take off on the insiders. Yeah. Right. So it's just sucking dry. So you can literally see like all these rock boils coming up. So I just kept going over the falls. I mean, within 40 minutes, I snapped the board.
Oh, no.
I ripped my Wesso open, was bleeding. It wasn't good.
That is a bad wipeout.
Yeah, that sounds worse than today's.
So that was just like little wipeouts, but over a whole session. So I'd say that was probably one of my worst sessions ever,
Yeah. I think Port 11's one of those places where a lot of people want to surf it, but a lot of people shouldn't surf it. Do you know what I mean?
I'm one of them.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but no, there's a lot of people that I know. I've seen a lot of people that go and surf there that like either aren't ready to surf it, or like you said, if you're not known to the people that are there, you've got to take off on the inside, and you're just going to be screwed anyway. You know, you got to work. You got to work your way up to it, haven't you?
Yeah. So, so when you come back to UK, you're going to be continuing to be a surf coach, and
so temporarily I will be. I've applied to be a lifeguard in UK for summer, which will be a nice change because then what I'll be able to do. Because the thing about doing like normal surf coaching, where you're doing say 5 days a week, 3 sessions a day over summer, is you're wiped, and that's all your energy is going onto that.
Yeah.
So obviously now this longboard coaching is starting to take off a little bit more than it was last year.
Yeah.
Doing something like lifeguarding, which is still taxing, but just not quite as tedious because you're not in the water like all day, every day in the sun, just getting burnt up in a wetsuit. So you've got a bit more energy to then focus into other things. So that's sort of the plan, is to do lifeguarding and also obviously my longboard coaching as well alongside.
So where what's like the kind of the plan for the longboard coaching? Like where would you like it to take you?
Well, eventually I want to take it international. It'd be amazing to do worldwide clinics. So I'm doing I've been doing one-to-one coaching and like online coaching during lockdowns, but I've had a few online and also in-person clients. But what I want to eventually do is be able to do like week-long clinics and stuff like that. So I've already got day clinics arranged from March, which I've already got people booking onto them, which is really amazing to see. And then cool. From there,
where can people go if they want to book on there?
So it's quite ghetto right now. You just literally send me a message. So
yeah, that's all right. If it works, it works.
I'm in the process of trying to make a website for it, but it's taking time, obviously, but it's getting there eventually.
Yeah.
But I'd say So obviously start with the day clinics this year, maybe move up to doing more week-long clinics, and then once I've got a few of them under my belt, see if there's places abroad which would be good to do it. For example, here in Barbados, you've got really good longboard waves. Yeah. Like all around the island in certain conditions, because it's such a small island. You can drive to all different ends of it within 40 minutes. Yeah. You've always got a wave which can be surfed. So somewhere like here would be ideal for.
I know there's a few in Portugal and Morocco as well that would be good places to do something like that.
Well, as well. Definitely, yeah.
I'm sure it'll take off, and what a great life you'll have doing that.
I just thought of another totally random another question then. So what sort of things would you, because a lot of people that listen to this podcast are landlocked surfers as well, so they're not going to be able to surf all the time. What can you do at home when you can't longboard? You know, does that make sense? You know, what sort of things can you do training wise? What sort of things can people do at home to like help them progress for when they get back into the water?
So obviously try and stay fit. That's probably the main thing you can do. So I'd say my favourite forms of fit, because obviously, like I say, I used to live somewhere that didn't get waves year round. Like we would do occasional trips to Cornwall, North Devon and Bantam on the south coast. Yeah. But other than that, we were pretty much stuck just training. So I started surf lifesaving, which is a combination of board paddling, swimming, and the ski paddling, which is basically like these really long, unstable kayak things. Yeah. And it also involves running as well. So just some sort of cardio exercise, and then also try and stay mobile. To do loads of flexibility work if you can. Like doing stuff like yoga is always good. I definitely don't do as much as I should, but I'm trying to improve on that. Yeah. Just try and stay mobile. I mean, like I say, what I was saying earlier about the cross-stepping drills, just try and like simulate it as best you can. Yeah. So doing stuff like trying to cross-step like along beams on skateboards, just anywhere really. It's like, I mean, it sounds stupid, but I used to, when I was learning it, I used to cross step all over the place, like all around the house.
Walking down the street like Mr. Soft.
All it is muscle memory. So if you can build up the muscle memory, then the next time you get in the sea, you'll have it.
Yeah. That's great, mate. There's some absolute brilliant tips there. Yeah, I mean all of them for us. But.
Yeah. No, I think people will get a lot out of this, because, as we say, we've had quite a few people saying, "Can you do something on longboard techniques and tips?" And I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else you'd add to the tips and techniques that we didn't cover in that?
Try and be safe, because obviously on the longboards, they're a lot harder to control than the shortboards, and a lot of the time when you're surfing 2 to 3 foot conditions, you're going to be in with crowds of people who maybe have never even surfed before. There might be surf lessons out, might be in the middle of summer at Fistral, for example, Croyd, somewhere which has got a lot of like surfers who aren't used to the sea and like watching out for other people. So maybe try and find a surf spot that's less crowded, or go to a different peak along the beach that might not be as good as the main peak. But go to the one which is going to give you the greatest opportunity to basically have a free space to try new stuff. Because obviously on the longboard, whilst you're learning, you haven't got a huge amount of control. Yeah. And that's the other thing. Obviously wear a leash to start with, because there's this thing of like, go leashless, which is cool if you can longboard. Yeah. But if you can't longboard, or say you're trying to learn something new, so even me sometimes, like, because obviously I've been longboarding for a while now, but like when I'm trying to learn something new, or if I'm going out into waves which I'm not quite sure about, always just put a leash on just to be safe.
Yeah.
I say.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think that's a brilliant load of advice for everybody out there that wanted. You asked for longboard techniques and tips, and there you go. There's longboard techniques. So where can people find you? Where can people find you online?
So it's called Longboard Technique on Instagram. That's my coaching page, which I run everything through. I will get a website up and running, like I say, eventually. But that'll probably take some time. So yeah, just the Instagram for now, or you can send me a message on Instagram. So I'm Jack Gregouris on Instagram. You can send me a message on there, or just literally anywhere really you can find me.
Cool. So as soon as your website is launched, let us know and we'll promote it as well, mate.
Yeah, we'll link it on the.
Like you said, there's not much out there for longboarders, so you're kind of rare. So this would be really valuable for a lot of longboarders, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
thank you very much for taking time out of your holiday to speak to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for that, Jack. He's nice.
What a guy.
Yeah, what a lovely guy.
Like someone like so young to have so much knowledge about like longboarding, and it's like normally, like, this is going to sound really bad, you'd look at someone young and they'd start talking about stuff and you're like, yeah, what do you know? do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, in a way.
But he's like won competition, so he's got the credentials as well.
And you can just tell by, like, obviously because we could see him, you could tell by the way he was talking and moving that he's just really mellow and he really knows what he's talking about, and he's taken time to really study it.
Yeah, and I feel like he's found, like, he's been intelligent enough to find a part or like an area in the surfing industry that isn't covered that much.
Yeah.
You know, because longboarding would generally be classed as easier than shortboarding.
Yeah.
Then, you know, most people think, well, why would you need a coach? It's just going out more. But as we both know very well, that we definitely need some help.
We need all the help we can get.
Like he might have just said something where someone listening now is going like, bloody hell, that's what I'm doing wrong. You know, I'm, you know, not studying the beach when I get there, and I'm by the time I get out to the lineup, I'm absolutely exhausted and I can't do my pop-up properly. And because I definitely do that, you know.
Well, I thought something he said on there that was really good was the point that when you go out, try not to think of all of this at once, because we've been guilty of that as well. Right? We've looked at stuff and gone, right, you need to do this to pop up better, you need to do this to paddle better, and you go out and you have we had one on one of the episodes when I said to you, next time you go out, just go and have fun.
Yeah.
And you said it was the best surf in ages, you know.
And also the other thing that we kind of spoke about on there as well is the pop-up when he said, take your time.
Yeah.
How many, you never hear that. It's always bang to your feet, explosive, you know, and like...
I never think, because you are moving slower on a longboard, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? It's not like that shortboard where you pop up and like drop down deep in like into the face of the wave. And
we're never going to be surfing waves like that even on a longboard, are we, really?
We're never going to be getting up quick at our age, really, are we? Lucky if I get up off the board at all. Just going to start bodyboarding.
Right, well, the other pop-up that we like doing is the Zimmer frame pop-up. How do you pop up whilst using a walking stick?
Yeah, but no, you know, there's so many good tips there, and like you said, like, you know, try not to think of it all at once, and like simple things, like you were saying then, that just like we're clicking into place, like try and keep your hands like over each rail, which makes perfect sense because your body just straightens up then, so you're like, you know, your legs are side on and your body's twisting round.
The other thing is, like, we're not relating the things that we can do to surfing, you know, like, because you're a really good skateboarder and you would skate like that. Like, I've seen you skate like face on. Yeah. But when we're on surfboards, we don't. You kind of go into. And then
as soon as you said like practice cross step on a slack line, I was like, oh fucking hell.
Yeah. Well, we can slackline. We could been slacklining for years, haven't we?
I never even thought of that, because that's like, it does your balance and you cross step on a slack line.
Yeah.
We're idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah, but cheers for that, Jack. That was absolutely brilliant. And he took time out of his holiday in Barbados. Another one in Barbados.
What is going on?
Everyone's going to fucking Barbados.
Why aren't we
going to fucking Barbados?
Why are we not in Barbados right now?
Yeah, so cheers for that, Jack. As you say, absolutely brilliant. And go and check him out. Longboard Techniques on Instagram. And,
he's got loads of like free tips and tricks.
Yeah, there's loads of information.
Yeah. And so you can see, like, you know, how good he is. And if you do want a lesson with him to take you to the next level, or just to get over something you're struggling with, he seems like a really cool guy. So.
Yeah, send him a message, go down to Newquay, have a trip away and have a longboard technique lesson. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Don't forget, head over to North Core and get 15% off with the discount code, the UK Surf Show 2022. And that will get you 15% off anything you order from there.
And if you could head over and like and subscribe on our YouTube, or go on to iTunes and leave a review, that really helps us out.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for today. And we will see you next time.
You could go over to buy me a coffee and join on there too.
Yeah, join, support the show. There'll be bonus podcast episodes coming on there soon when they bloody release this feature.
Yeah, but we also put blogs on there, and we also do more in-depth kind of blog on our guests and more photos of them and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, shoot on over and join the Tusk tribe. It's Tusk, isn't it? I keep forgetting. Tux. The fuck is wrong with me?
Bye.